wasn't this.
This guy was cold-blooded basketball killer. This guy was assassin. This guy would rip your heart out. I'm not.
Bird is a better player than Luka Doncic. And Luka's killing. You telling me Bird wouldn't die?
Right now.
Larry Bird, he'll be the
MVP.
small forward version.
You think he'd be like one of the best, like?
Yes.
Larry Bird would do this night in, night out.
Yeah, no, Dr. Umar.
Just at the three.
He's one of the few white players I know that no matter what era he was in, he was going to kill, bro.
What do you think if Bird played in 2020?
Rich, I don't know. I think he might average 30. I mean, here's the thing. Nobody could ever rush Larry Bird. I know guys are way more athletic now, but his ability to shoot the ball, depending upon the team he's on, like he can get anywhere he wants to be and shoot over smaller players.
But there's a steal by Bird. That's it. We're done. He was actually a good defensive player. Larry Bird was a sufficient defensive player because the best play of his entire career was a steal in the Eastern Conference Finals. Jokic has no consequential defensive.
Bird played today, he'll have to play over in the European League.
If Larry Bird was playing today, he would still be the MVP of the league. And his team would still be winning championships.
So picture this. A slow, stiff country kid out of French Lick who supposedly had zero explosion and no business being on an NBA floor. That's what they called him. Then something clicked. That dead-eyed stare showed up. His veins turned to ice. His trash talk got sharp enough to draw blood. Every single possession turned into a personal war, and defenders could feel the pressure building before the ball even left his hands. Have you ever wondered whether Larry Bird could actually hang in today's NBA? Stick around because the legends who played with him and against him are about to tell you the truth. He wouldn't just compete out there, he'd cook the whole league. What you're about to watch is pure, unstoppable dominance, so don't look away.
1981, Larry Bird followed up a miss on a 20-footer with this crazy putback in Game 1 of the NBA Finals. This prompted then Celtics executive Red Auerbach to call it, quote, the best play he ever saw. The Celtics, of course.
Larry Bird slander will be tolerated. Put some respect on his goddamn name, because I've been on the internet and on social media and I've been seeing these youngsters disrespecting Larry Bird, talking about he wouldn't be shit in today's NBA. You know what's whack
about the biggest weakness for Luka and all that he does is play the other end of the floor.
Yeah.
Bird made all defensive team 3 times in 6 years. Luka got 0. So you can't.
And he will probably always have
0.
That morning they came out with a USA Today article and it said that Larry didn't have it no more. So he came out that night to make a statement, and I was just the prime candidate to be Before the game, he told me, he was like, he just shook his head at me. He said, man, it'd be nice.
Now imagine dropping Larry Bird onto a modern NBA court. This wouldn't be some awkward time traveler fumbling to learn new rules. It'd be more like turning loose a seasoned predator inside a petting zoo full of pampered, highly paid gazelles who have never once experienced real hunger in their carefully managed careers.
Athlete, and because of his ability to operate out of the pivot position, he could jab and go either direction and beat you.
But I'm going to remind you, Larry Bird dominated professional basketball for 3 straight years for sure, because he won back-to-back-to-back MVPs. He won 3 in a row, 84, 85, and 86. This is stuff of legends. And
Larry Bird in this era? Are you kidding me?
That's
what be boiling my blood. But
it'd
people
been more
don't.
rough though.
For who?
For Larry.
How?
And it starts.
What you mean?
How?
Just the physical capability.
He's 6'10", dude.
And while he was at the top of his game, for the seasons that Carlisle was there, Larry Bird was averaging 25.8 points, 28.1 points, and then 29.9 points.
Here's the thing people love to claim, that today's stars just play on some higher level of athleticism and skill. But that idea falls apart the second you actually line up what Bird did night after night against the toughest competition the league had during an era that rewarded grit over highlight reels.
Like when I sometimes I used to watch like older people play, I used to be like, man, he ain't athletic, he ain't this. But then when I watch Jokic, it's like, he walking around, bro.
Yeah.
He just make it look so simple. I'm like, if Larry Bird play right now, like Luka and Jokic just be walking around. Larry Bird would have
of his mind. Larry Bird, if he played today, Ephraim, might be better than in his day.
because he'd be shooting more three-pointers, and he's one of the greatest shooters ever. And he was a phenomenal player, and I think people
tremendous
overlook.
passer as well.
They don't have like traditional. I mean, a few guys like you got like Embiid and stuff that are like these traditional big
centers.
Men.
Yeah,
that's true. But Larry Bird played all around. He could play 5 positions. He could play the point.
That's a good
as
point,
well
though, too.
as he could play down low, and so he had a good jump shot.
Today's players talk a lot about load management and recovery science. Meanwhile, Bird was out there logging 40 minutes a night on a back that felt like it had been run over by a tractor, still putting up 30 points and 10 boards, and still turning the opposing locker room into something close to group therapy because nobody wanted to face him again the next night.
That landslide already shifts all the way over to Larry Bird. Then All-Star games, he's up on him. Conference appearances, he's up on him. Titles, he's up on him. Although you say he was on a loaded team. That team was loaded, but wasn't going anywhere till he got there.
Truth.
So if I look at these two players and if I'm saying they're similar, then Bird would probably win 2 or 3 championships in this era.
In this era right now.
Yeah.
NBA. You know what's whack about the NBA today? The defense. Final scores be 237 to 199. Larry B would eat y'all's asses up.
So who do people usually bring up when they try to stack Bird against today's generation? Typically, it's LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Stephen Curry. But here's a question worth asking. Do those comparisons actually flatter the modern guys, or do their polished highlight reels and social media narratives just make it seem that way? LeBron gets endless praise for his size and vision, sure, but Bird spent years carving up bigger, meaner who'd also talk them into a full mental collapse before the third quarter even ended. And Curry get credit for revolutionizing spacing with his range? Bird was already raining threes back when most coaches treated the line like a gimmick, and he did it while getting body checked on every single possession, with none of the freedom of movement rules that now hand out fouls for a stiff breeze near an offensive player.
First of all, with all due respect to those guys, they're not in the same conversation with Larry. You know, they're like I said, the best of the best. It's hard to get a seat at that table.
He's in the top 5 small forwards of all time.
For sure.
Yeah, you gotta respect it.
So who over him besides LeBron?
KD.
If you think Larry Bird been at the same level with KD?
He is.
Larry Bird wasn't just a good shooter, he was a great shooter. He was a dead-eye, deadly shooter who could shoot you in the heart. He was a great clutch shooter, and he was a great free throw shooter.
Who's going to be matched up against Larry Bird? Karl Anthony Towns.
That's a nightmare, man.
For Karl Anthony Towns. Because that dude can play basketball. Really play basketball.
No, 100%.
Really play basketball.
Honestly, it's almost funny watching today's stars get praised for efficiency numbers that would have gotten them benched in the 80s for failing to meet the basic bar of winning basketball. Bird put together multiple seasons shooting over 50% from the field, 40% from 3, and 90% from the line, all while carrying the scoring, the playmaking, and a defensive intensity that treated every single game like a personal vendetta against the whole opposing roster. Modern analytics teams would be scrambling to invent new metrics just to try to measure the pure competitive spite fueling every possession. He wasn't the fastest guy out there or the highest flyer, and that's exactly why this comparison stings so much for today's players, because he simply refused to lose, and he made losing feel like a public humiliation that stuck with opponents long after the buzzer sounded and the lights went down.
CP, a top 50 player. He played with Dennis Johnson also, who I believe should have been a top 75 player because he won a Finals MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and he won 3 championships. All of those guys played alone. Luka Doncic has not played with a top...
His positioning on the court and knowing where all his teammates are at. I mean, you look at his highlight reels, this guy's throwing passes without even looking. He's just tossing that stuff behind his head, you know?
That's because he's hoping and praying it goes where he wants it to.
You're out of your
These
mind,
guys
Jeff.
weren't athletic back then. Now
he saw Larry Bird at the top of his career, okay? He had, 5 more years remaining. He, had to retire because of his back. He retired early at 35 years old. But at that age of 29, 30, 31, he was at the absolute top of his game.
What happens when you widen the comparison to guys like Giannis Antetokounmpo and Nikola Jokic? It only gets more embarrassing for the modern side. Giannis overwhelms people with pure length and athleticism, But Bird already faced down athletic freaks who passing IQ, but Bird was already a 6'9" point forward, orchestrating an entire half-court offense while scoring at an elite level and defending his spot with a physicality the rules today wouldn't even allow. The idea that size or some unique skill combo would somehow shut Bird down ignores one simple fact. He already beat the most physically dominant, skilled big men of his own era, without any of the protective officiating that shields today's offensive stars from consequences.
So I think his game translates to any time period.
Great size, great intelligence, terrific passer, great shooter. He would kick butt today. Teams would probably try to isolate him in switches, and I don't know if he'd make all defensive teams.
Else during that period, like 3 years in a row, he's MVP in the 80s. I mean, he's the best player on the planet for 3 years plus. And then Magic won it in 87. There were times when, you know, he would just come down. Like one time
you can't say that by watching game film. You have to talk to the players that lived it. I lived that 80s era, and Larry Bird was one of the greatest three-point shooters that's ever played this game. Fuck percentages. It ain't about that. It's about hitting dick.
Let's move past the imaginary head-to-head matchups for a second and look at cold, hard results instead of marketing spin. 3 MVP awards in 4 years, that's not the byproduct of weak competition or media favoritism. That's proof that the league's best players, coaches, and executives all recognized him as the single most impactful force in the sport at his peak. He took a mediocre, directionless Celtics team and turned it into a full-blown dynasty through sheer will, transforming role players into real contributors and pushing veterans to play like they were terrified of letting down the one guy who wouldn't accept anything less than total commitment. That brand of leadership doesn't always show up neatly in a box score the way a dunk contest or a viral crossover does. But you know where it does show up? On championship banners hanging from the rafters. And Bird collected 3 of them, all while embarrassing the league's other superstars on national TV in ways people still talk about decades later.
I put KD and I put probably Pippen.
You putting Scottie Pippen over
Nah, give me
Larry
Bird.
Bird?
Hell no. Give me Larry. I'm going KD and Larry.
If MJ
Scottie
would have had
Pippen
Larry
and Bron.
And Luka's killing. You telling me Bird wouldn't dominate?
Yeah.
He's a better player than Luka Doncic.
Right. And he would get in your head.
Come on, man.
And like his, well, Bird had that killer instinct that you just don't see in sports all the time. He had it.
And one of the things they said is like, that Redick said is that Curry has faced more physicality. We called him out on
Let me say something. First of all, Redick don't know what the hell he's talking about. I'm going to say it, right?
I agree.
He don't know what the hell he's talking about. I'm like...
His trash talk wasn't the playful, clip-friendly banter you see going viral today. It was psychological warfare, delivered with the calm certainty of a man who'd already calculated every possible counter his opponent could try. Guys would hear their own weaknesses described in real time while Bird calmly buried contested jumpers over their outstretched hands, then jogged back on defense like nothing had happened at all. Ever seen a modern player played through a career-altering back injury that would have sidelined half of today's roster for months, and he still dropped 50-point games and orchestrated game winners, treating pain like just another defender he'd already beaten before? This case for his dominance isn't built on nostalgia or selective memory. It's built on the uncomfortable truth that he combined elite skill, elite basketball IQ, and a nearly unhinged competitive edge that today's load-managed stars rarely show across a full 82-game season, let alone the playoffs.
Larry's walking and Billy's like, hey, you want to meet Larry Bird? You know me, I'm like, young kid. Billy Knight go, what's up, Larry? And Larry Bird go, what's up, Billy Knight? Last time I saw you, you was screaming for help.
He could score from every level of the floor with either hand, thread passes through traffic that would make today's point guards call a timeout, and defend his position with a physicality that current rules would outlaw before the first quarter of his first game even wrapped up. Think spacing and pace alone would neutralize him? Think again. He controlled tempo and spacing himself, dictating exactly where the defense had to stand and then punishing them for standing there. That kind of control is rare in any era, and it's almost non-existent among players who treat the regular season as an optional warm-up while carefully saving their bodies for a playoff run that might not even happen. During his peak, Bird sustained elite scoring, playmaking, rebounding, and defensive impact all at once, a combination few current players match, even with every modern advantage in training, nutrition, and medical care.
So when you start thinking about guys like Larry Bird and some of these legendary players, it's hard to catch them. You can have resemble their game, can be the same, they can shoot the same, they can both be white, all of those sort of things. Because we certainly pull Bird, we just say, oh.
Now let's talk about how the eras themselves differ, because that only tilts things further in Bird's favor. Why? Because the modern game has basically been redesigned to protect offensive players and manufacture highlight-friendly moments at the expense of the sustained physical and mental toughness Bird brought every single night. Hand check and generally make life miserable for anyone daring to operate inside or even out on the perimeter. And Bird thrived in exactly that environment, using angles, timing, and pure stubbornness to get whatever shot he wanted, whenever he wanted it. Today's rule changes have stripped away most of those physical barriers, meaning that same skill set would face even less resistance and produce even more efficient offense than it already did. Defensive 3 seconds, the near elimination of hand-checking, hair-trigger foul calls on perimeter contact, all of that would hand Bird open looks and driving lanes he never got in his own era. And remember, he was already one of the most efficient high-volume scorers in league history, without any of those perks.
Basketball IQ. Ask Magic Johnson. Would Magic Johnson do well in today's NBA?
Yes.
Would Michael Jordan do well in today's NBA?
Yes.
Larry Bird was cooking with both of them.
And
there were 3 chefs in the kitchen, and Larry B was one of them.
Ask all them.
People love to point to pace and space as the reason modern players would overwhelm the older legends. But here's the catch. Bird's teams already played with purposeful ball movement and purposeful tempo that would slot right into any current offense without any real adjustment. The difference? Bird's version of pace came bundled with the concept that would have been mocked in the locker room. Bird and his sharpens the point that his baseline competitiveness sat higher than what a lot of today's optimized, well-rested stars display. And the talent was thinner back then argument doesn't hold up either. The 80s had multiple Hall of Fame big men, elite wing defenders, and guards who could punish mistakes without needing constant whistle protection or a free throw hunting playstyle. Bird went toe-to-toe with those guys night after night and usually came out ahead in the categories that actually mattered, stats and winning.
They took
This
all the
nigga
players.
played with 11 Hall of Famers.
He did.
Oh, that's a dime.
He definitely
shit
did.
off, though. Yeah, pass that. Hey. He kind of wrong.
He was cold, bro.
Yeah, he wrong.
I can't even hate.
Sure, league expansion and the rise of international talent have added more roster spots and more overall athleticism to the game. But has that automatically produced more players who can match Bird's rare mix of refined skill, high basketball IQ, and relentless mentality? Not really. The three-point revolution is real, and it's genuinely changed the geometry of the game, but Bird was already a strong three-point shooter by the standards of his day, and he simply would have launched more of them if the math and the spacing jumping in shiny sneakers that look great in commercials. Bird's craft turned an average vertical and average straight line speed into an absolute nightmare matchup for anyone who thought physical tools were enough to solve him. He studied tendencies the way a professional card counter studies a deck, then exploited them with a ruthless efficiency that left opponents second-guessing their own preparation.
And how do you persevere? That's what Larry Bird wasn't going to let the edge get away.
So to me, this is one of those stories that has to be retold over and over and over again. Because a lot of
physicality that was a part of the league. Hey, look, when you can put your hand on a guy's hip and make him go a certain way, if you can put that elbow in his chest to slow him up, which we call slowing a guy up when you coming down the lane, so how many guys can deal with that type of...
Today's film rooms, player tracking data, and advanced scouting reports would only make him more dangerous because that read and react intelligence and competitive foundation were already elite long before any of those tools existed. Today, resting for soreness are sure, but it's also produced a generation that's less familiar with grinding through real discomfort while still being expected to deliver winning basketball month after month. Bird's career is a masterclass in producing elite results under exactly those tough conditions. And yes, the back issues that eventually forced him into retirement would probably be managed very differently with today's medicine, but the fact that he still performed at a historic level while battling chronic pain only proves how much higher his baseline competitiveness sat compared to many current stars who carefully ration their availability.
I mean, you can say the same thing about Bird and Luka. The problem is, when you start saying he was on a loaded team, that loaded team wasn't doing nothing before he got there. They was loaded, but they were not doing anything. So when you go...
Two players, if you wanted to say
one was not built for today's game, the one you would say would be Magic. Because Magic didn't shoot that well.
Add it all up, and Bird's complete skill set would map onto today's game with almost unfair advantages, amplifying every strength he already had. More freedom of movement means cleaner looks and more driving lanes, better conditioning, science-based nutrition, and you couldn't match his intensity for a full 48 minutes together, the head-to-head comparisons, the case for outright dominance, and the differences between eras. A consistent pattern emerges, one that modern narratives conveniently tend to skip over. The gap between Bird and today's stars is really a gap in mentality and sustained competitiveness far more than it's a gap in raw physical tools. And the case for his dominance rests on years of elite production across scoring, playmaking, rebounding, and winning impact, a level few active players can match over a comparable stretch, even with every modern support system behind them.
I got this guy. He said, I'm going to go down low, I'm going to catch, turn around, shoot. Come down low, hit him down low.
This is what he tells you.
He telling me play by play.
Yeah, we just said to
come down, shoot, bang. He said, I'm going to go to the wing, turn, and shoot again. I'm like, I'm throwing this back. Boom, boom, bang. I'm like, damn. You can't that size, slow, white boy, yeah.
The differences between eras tilt the floor even further in Bird's direction, because today's rules, culture, and scientific advantages would amplify every strength he already had, while removing many of the physical and logistical obstacles he had to fight through during his prime. And look, this isn't some nostalgic fantasy dreamed up by fans who refused to accept he'd rearrange its entire hierarchy with the same cold efficiency that once had whole franchises dreading the sight of him walking into their building. Honestly, the only debate left worth having is how many more championships he'd rack up before the league office tried, once again, to legislate his particular brand of dominance out of existence. And here's the kicker. Today's media ecosystem would hand Bird an entirely new arsenal of weapons that older generations never had. And you'd better believe he'd wield every single one of them with the same merciless precision that once tore apart opposing game plans.
The tipping point for Bird, like those two areas individually being able to do a couple of things that it's very difficult for a 7-footer to do.
It's a fair point. I'm not going to dissuade you from that because, like I said, Larry Bird there are 4 players that still wish were still playing this day.
Press conferences would turn into stages for quiet devastation, where a few carefully chosen words about effort and preparation would leave entire room for participation trophies or carefully managed public images. Analytics departments spending millions modeling optimal shot selection and defensive schemes would find their most advanced models rewritten overnight by a guy who already understood the math of winning without ever opening a spreadsheet. Bird would take in all that data, all those tracking numbers, and then exploit the gaps they revealed with a creativity no algorithm has replicated yet. And coaching staffs built around collaborative decision-making, they'd suddenly be facing a competitor who treats every possession like a personal referendum on seriousness, forcing fast cultural adjustments across multiple franchises.
And then comes this kid, Larry Bird.
Indiana State.
From Indiana State, right? Larry Bird. That is what made the NBA what it is now.
Popularized the game and made it more popular and famous to be an American citizen, American basketball player. Then you go from the middle 80s to late 80s, and then you come into the 90s.
Younger players who've grown up surrounded by constant affirmation and brand protection would hit a kind of competitive culture shock that no amount of mental skills coaching could really prepare them for. The Daily Standard Bird sets, just by example, would expose the gap between performing for the cameras and performing for the scoreboard, and this whole exercise would force a much-needed recalibration in how we evaluate greatness across eras once Bird's presence made people confront the difference between piling up stats and actually controlling winning environments. Debates that usually center on peak athleticism or stylistic innovation would have to expand to include sustained psychological dominance and the ability to turn a mediocre supporting cast into a genuine threat. And legacy conversations that often collapse into empty nostalgia or defensive modernism, they'd suddenly get a lot sharper because you'd have a living demonstration of an older standard operating at full strength inside today's framework, leaving little room for comfortable excuses.
And yet, Luka Doncic has yet to play in a single finals game, and you have anointed him Baby Bird.
He the closest thing to him, and you know that.
Okay, but closest to him and being him are two very different
Skip, he
things.
might not ever be him. Skip, you do.
And we forgot to mention that on Winning Time. The way they talked, how they showcased how he went to go play in jeans and said, this actually happened. Give me the ball. Bird was a shit talker.
Oh, yeah.
He was a nigga from French Lick.
Merchandise sales, marketing campaigns, TV ratings, all of it would feel the ripple effects as audiences rediscovered the particular electricity of a competitor who treats every single night like an audition for permanent superiority. The league's own storytelling machine would struggle to package a guy who refuses to play along with the softer mythologies dominating today's official narratives. So where does this thought experiment leave us? With some pretty brutal clarity. Larry Bird's game translates across decades, not because the past was better in every way, but because certain rare combinations of skill, intellect, and competitive ruthlessness stay effective no matter what conditions surround them. The modern NBA wouldn't diminish him at all. If anything, it would reveal him more completely, forcing an entire generation of players, executives, and fans to rethink what sustained excellence actually requires. The hierarchy would shift, the excuses would run thin, and the standard would rise, like whether the league was ready for it or not.